is Ron Kay, former editor of the Daily News and founder of the LA Clean Sweep, and he was an active observer of charter reform efforts when he was editor of the Daily News. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you, Jose. Thank you for putting this all together. I'm usually the contrarian and troublemaker in things, and I'll try to live up to my past record. Picking up Raphael Sonenshein's accountability, transparency, and participation, if there's accountability, people have to be held accountable. There is no accountability, there's only politicalization of the bureaucracy and of City Hall. The transparency is as opaque as transparency could be, and is one of the major issues is to know what goes on in all the back rooms where people get 2 minutes to come up here, and usually it's the same gadfly people, and lobbyists spend hours manipulating staffs and politicians without visibility, where money isn't disclosed openly and immediately in the movement of money, where politicians who get fines and charged with criminality raise money from the very same forces that influenced all the actions they've previously taken. And finally, participation. If you want people to participate, if you want a conversation among the incredible diversity of this city, you have to give people the power and the money to do something about their lives, their neighborhoods, and this city as a whole. That isn't what this charter reform achieved. Charter reform began because of Valley secession and Valley civic leader David Fleming and Mayor Reardon coming together to try to offer a solution. They proposed boroughs, dividing the city up into 5 to 7 more or less self-governing governments that would then contribute to a metropolitan council and allow the regions of the city to largely determine their own fate, to keep portions of the tax revenue that they generated from development. It would have opened up the doors and windows to almost anybody being able to get elected who had standing in the community, who worked hard and could raise a modest amount of money. What we have, in fact, is a government that's bought and paid for by money from special interest, whether they're unions or contractors, consultants, lobbyists, who channel it through all their clients, since we had ethics reform to stop that, and most of all, developers. And so we have special interests that are dictating our policies, and the real question is 10 years after charter reform, is LA better run than it was 10 years ago? Is the quality of life better? Is the focus of the city on making our neighborhoods healthier, of creating a healthy climate for people to do business in? What 1 in 8 people in the city either is unemployed, underemployed, or given up even hopes of employment? We have to devolve power if we're going to make a difference. The neighborhood council system was supposed to be elected. What happened was Reardon put forward an elected commission and lost most of the seats to the special interest money, and the council members then appointed their own commission to create havoc and confusion and undermine the whole process. What they came up with was a mixed bag. So we have a system that really hasn't achieved accountability. It's achieved almost complete politicization without being serviced. The council votes 99.93% unanimously. It rarely has more than the 12 members present that they need to push anything through on a single vote. Devolution of power, is the problem really the charter? I don't know. It's certainly an execution. A passive mayor and Jimmy Hahn allowed the system to kind of go on where it is. This mayor has checked out entirely from all appearances of providing leadership. And the state of the city is that we're teetering on bankruptcy. We're the first city in America, big city, to close our libraries 2 days a week. We're slashing parks programs. We're selling off assets that the council fought so hard against with Reardon. And we're doing it at the bottom of the market in a panic to desperately save the system that's failed us. And failure has to be accountable. I come back to, if you want a civic engagement and participation, if you want respect for every community in this city and all of its amazing diversity, then you have to respect those people and give them the power to decide whether they want food trucks in their neighborhood or not, of whether they want this or that in their neighborhoods, and they have to have control of the money, not the CRA and the DWP making backroom deals to fund the same interests that fund the political system. Reform has to be dramatic, but I'm in a position where I believe we have to change the people most of all and bring in real citizens who've done real things in their lives, not 5 former legislators and a bunch of staffers in political operations, but citizens who have done something, who have participated in their community, and that's what LA Clean Sweep is about, and it's a big challenge. I'm not kidding myself, but there are a lot of really decent, smart people stepping forward and trying to create an alternative, and so I hope you all will pay attention and get involved for whoever and for whatever values you believe in and fight for them as citizens of Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron, and you continue to live up to your contrarian role every time we have you at one of these panels. The next again to review the charter and have a comprehensive look at it again. Now, I say this in the background of right now, given the economy, the dissatisfaction with government, people are unemployed, you know, this is cyclical at times, and you get these waves of, you know, dissatisfaction at a heightened level than usual. Are we going through that phase, or is there something fundamentally, structurally wrong with the way the city is governed given its charter? So first start off with Ron again, and keep these brief, and then I'll go into more detailed questions.
Well, something's fundamentally wrong. I don't think there's any doubt about that. The charter is the political will existing anywhere in the city leadership. I mean, suddenly looks like the council is draping itself in a series of charter reforms for the March ballot, which seems very political to me, some good, some bad, but again, it's piecemeal solutions to a big problem. Is what's the system that we want? Do we want a mayor who is totally responsible for his actions, or a mayor who can hide behind commissioners that do his bidding with his staff openly now, telling him how to vote and manipulating the process, and yet no accountability? We have a fundamental policy in the city of development, that anything goes. We're short-circuiting the planning process, firing community planners, and building code enforcement to preserve a system only to serve developers. Is that what the city wants, and where is that articulated? I think you need to have political leadership emerge that can guide this process, and I don't see where that's happening. I see grassroots movement growing, but I don't see where there's a civic leadership is almost non-existent, and there is no establishment. There's a few billionaires who throw their weight around, but there's no broad business, civic, or community leadership. So I don't see where there's a political will to achieve that now.
Julie?
I agree with Ron. That'll never happen again. I'm sure it is. I think that's the question. I think the question we all have to ask is, what does Los Angeles want to be when it grows up as a city, and how best to get there? I think the goals of accountability, transparency, and participation are obviously ones we all support. The question is, how do we structure the government in a way that gets there, and is it simply by changing the rules of the road? I'm not sure. No say.
The city council uses neighborhood councils for their own purpose. They dismiss the neighborhood councils when they take a contrary position, and then they embrace the neighborhood councils when they take a similar position. And so they're continuously trying to manipulate them, so they're not independent enough, and they don't. But they need resources. I totally agree with Ron Kay on his last statement about neighborhood councils, that we need to give them resources and maybe even staff. And that would really empower.
The great thing about neighborhood councils is it's the breeding ground of a new city leadership from the grassroots up. There are people running for council who come out of the neighborhood council movement, have learned a lot about city government. Thousands of people have gotten involved and learned how the system works, have become participants and really represent. I mean, I've advocated that you shouldn't be able to run unless you're going to get at least 100 signatures in your neighborhood, and maybe keep those people informed of what is going on in your neighborhood. That would be, it is organizing. If labor unions, if the community had labor organizers working to help organize it, we would change this whole city and create real civic engagement in a public conversation. And I think that's happening. And I think it's happening greatly in the blogosphere and the internet, where there's more news about what's going on than there is in the press or television. So something is really growing from the ground up. And the question is City Hall working to expedite that and speed it up, or is it trying to keep it down and suppress it, which I believe is the
government is not the solution, it's the problem. People are the solution. And if people in neighborhood councils and the thousands of organizations in this city will look beyond the service club, beyond the Chamber of Commerce, and begin to talk to each other and begin to reach out into their communities and begin to form a network and begin to see, I've been all over the city in the last 2 years, and the experience of city government is the same in every community. The problems are different, but the solution is the same one. If we'll all pull together, if we'll get organized, if we'll see that the poorest and the richest of us who care about the quality of life and the opportunities in this city, we could all work together and the system would obey. There's nobody in that council, there's nobody in this building who's strong enough to stand up to a really organized community saying we want a government that serves us and not special interests. I mean, that's what a lot of people are working for, and I don't know of any other solution myself.
Several of these forums, we talked about public financing of campaigns, about election reforms, and unlike the others, I'm not quite sure I'm going to propose anything sometime soon to really re-examine our charter. I get the sense, let it continue to evolve. There's some things here and there, but overall, some people think it's not the charter. There's other things that really can make impacts.